Hey y'all, welcome back to the Sales Family YouTube page. I did not want to do an update in this kind of manner at all, but I did want to do a update. It's just me, and if you're wondering, yes, I am in the hospital. I am doing fine. Baby seems to be doing perfect. We're just trying to make sure she stays in there for as long as possible, which is why I'm in the hospital, and the update I will be giving you guys. Let's get started. So I want to say maybe the first week of October. Let me get my timeline up. So yes, the October 4th, around October 4th, I was having lower abdominal pain, and it was extremely excruciating painful, and I could barely like sit. Like, I was making at a certain point labor breaths, I call them, and yeah, so I couldn't. So I was about 10 minutes away from home. I turned around, I went home, because from the military base to my house, it's about a 35-minute drive, and I knew for a fact I could not make it that far driving in the condition that I was. So I drove home, and my husband decided that he'll just drive me. Well, we decided that he was going to be the one to drive me. And so we get, before any of that happened, sorry if I'm a little all over the place, I did call the military hospital quite a few times, like a lot of times. I think it was like 4 times, and no one was picking up the OBGYN. So I do see a high-risk doctor already, due to the fact that Riley was born premature in 35 weeks. So that already put me at a high risk. And usually when you have one premature baby, they look at you very closely because you are more likely than anyone else to have another premature baby. So I've been seeing a high-risk doctor this whole entire time, and so I called my OB's office. No one was picking up at all, and it was just, I was getting frustrated. So I don't know how it is with civilian hospitals, but for military hospitals, or at least the hospital that I have at my base, if you are more than 20 weeks, you do not go to the regular ER. You have to go to labor and delivery, and that is your ER, labor and delivery, and they will do everything that needs to be done for you. So I'm sorry, I'm also on a liquid diet, so I can't eat anything. So yeah, with that being said, I can't eat anything besides liquids and ices and jellos. And I miss food so much. So I called labor and delivery. And for some reason the girl did not, or whoever she was talking to, because I was talking to one person, and she kept putting me on hold to go and like talk to one of the nurses or the doctors, and then coming back and telling me and going back and forth. So I told her like, hey, I'm having like excruciating lower abdominal pain, and I need to come in. So she told me to call my OB office. I told her my OB office was not picking up, so I'm coming in. Like, I'm just letting her know that I'm coming in. So she starts asking me questions, which is fine, just like getting ready. So I guess they can be ready when I get there. And she's like, oh, do you have any UTI symptoms and whatnot? I'm like, yeah, it's possible that like I have UTI symptoms, but what I'm telling you, mind you, I'm in so much pain that I'm just like I couldn't really think straight. So I'm like, I'm telling you, like, you know, I'm coming in for my lower abdominal pain. She's like, oh, maybe just go to your OB office so they can treat for the UTI, which pissed me the freak off, because it's like, how many times do I have to tell you that I'm in pain? What are you talking about, a UTI? And yes, I know UTIs can cause pains, but this wasn't. It's just, I knew there was something that was wrong, and it wasn't that kind of pain where it's like, okay, this is kind of painful, because you know, like I was like that. So where was I? Sorry. So I'm there. No, so I'm telling her, she's telling me to call my OB again, and I'm like, hey, my OB's office is not picking up. I called already 4 times, and you are telling me to go be seen for a UTI when I'm telling that I'm in excruciating freaking pain. Like, what is wrong with you? So she's like, okay, come in. So I go in, and again, they're still stuck on this UTI, so they're just trying to do workup for UTI. And there was one doctor, just one, that was like, maybe we should check a little bit more. And thank God that he said this, because when they checked a little bit more, they noticed that I have or had a shortened cervix. Now your cervix, I'll give like a quick explanation. So your cervix is supposed to be really long up until it's time for you to give birth, and every time you have a contraction, your cervix melts away so it can make way for your baby to come out. And your cervix should be long so that if it reaches to the back of your spine. Now my cervix was not doing that. Excuse me. My cervix was not doing that. My cervix was shortened, and pretty much my baby was going to come out. And I was 22 weeks at the time. Now the chances of survival rate at 22 weeks is slim to none. They have no equipment to help the baby at that time. The baby's too small, the lungs are too small. So that's not good. So I'm like, okay. Then they put me on a bed rest until a civilian doctor, because the military won't stitch your cervix closed until after, unless you're like 16 weeks. But if you're after that, then they won't touch you, because it's like a full-on surgery. So they call me, and I go in on Wednesday, and I get a sonogram done. As they're doing the sonogram, they see that my cervix is actually even more shortened than what they seen than what the military hospital has sent them. And I was also actively contracting. So he showed me live on like one of they had like a flat screen TV on the wall, and he showed me live exactly. I wish I could have taken a video. And like my cervix was opening and closing and opening and closing, and my baby's head was like, every time I opened, would like kind of slide in a little bit, and then when it would close, it would like push the baby's head out. And like every time it opened, it would slide, and like this is exactly how it looked. And he was also saying that I was having contractions at the same time, which I could not feel. I did not know I was going into I was having contractions, so that is not a good thing neither. So he admitted me the same exact day on Wednesday, and at 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, I got what is called a Cerclage. Now, before we go there, on Wednesday, whoever is going through this, I totally feel you. I was in complete and utter shock. Like, I did not speak. I just said yes and no to the nurses that were admitting me and doing whatever they needed to do. I was just like I felt a big knot in my throat and my chest, and just like, but nothing was coming out. Like I didn't cry or anything like that. It was just like complete shock, because I went in there just to get an ultrasound, just to get a game plan, and I didn't get to go home. And it was like I had nothing. I said goodbye to Riley really quick. I've never ever spent a day, a night without seeing my daughter. So it was really hard and difficult. And if you're going through this, just hang in there. I feel you. I'm there with you. Yeah. So Thursday morning, they come and they get me. I'm so sorry. And I go in there, and I'm still in like the state of like just utter shock. I'm just not totally here. I'm just in shock, just like, sure. And they put the epidural in. And if you know me, I don't do well with being restricted. And I couldn't feel anything, which was completely horrible for me. It was like I couldn't move my legs. I couldn't move it. It validated my reasons on why I do not ever want to get an epidural. And this was the main reason why I didn't want to get an epidural in the first place. And this is just me. I know some people may say I'm crazy and for saying this, but I don't care. This is me. I know the kind of person I am. It's the reason why I said from the start I wouldn't get an epidural, and I wanted to go natural, was because I knew that sense of feeling of restriction that epidural did end up giving me on that surgical table. Because I was awake for the whole entire surgery. It was too much. So with not being able to fully process everything that's happened or anything like that, I was on the surgery table. My legs were up, my arms were out. I'm awake, and there's just a bunch of people I do not know. My husband's not allowed in the hospital because it's only us here. And I had a humongous panic attack. Alright, so I had to stop real quick because my nurse came in. So yeah, I had a huge panic attack, like hyperventilating. My heart rate skyrocketed. I couldn't take it anymore, and it just came out right there. I asked for them to FaceTime my husband for me, and so kindly they did. They FaceTimed him, and he was able to calm me down. I was able to see Riley's face and my dog's face, and they was just like calming me down. And once I was calm and collected, and my panic attack has stopped, sorry, I'm like rethinking it again. Once my panic attack stopped, that's when they proceeded. So the surgery, I think they said it was going to take about 30 minutes to an hour, which that's about how long it took. I wasn't really counting, but the whole time I was focusing on my breathing and making sure I didn't have another anxiety attack. And it was like really hard for me to do, because every time I thought about like trying to wiggle my toes and my feet and this and that, it's just like it was coming back. I know it's so weird to think about, but that's just how I am. And it was really hard, and I couldn't look straight up because the little light that they were looking at, the reflection was showing like everything they were doing in there. So I can only look side to side, and every time my heart rate will raise, the baby's heart rate was also was rising inside the thing. So that was something that ironically was really helping me, because every time I thought about that and every time I heard my heart rate go up, I would think, okay, I have to lower my heart rate because the baby's heart rate is going up. Sorry, I'm having a little pain. So yeah, so they stitched my cervix closed, and usually that's all. After they stitch a woman's cervix closed, you're usually good. They tell you to rest for a few days, and then you're usually fine, and you're able to carry to term. I wasn't having as easy of a time, so they had me on a bed rest for a little while until I saw a military doctor. And once I saw the military doctor, they cleared me. But that same day, so this was like exactly 2 weeks later. Yes, it was exactly 2 weeks later. They cleared me. No, not the day before, exactly 2 weeks later from after having the surgery. They cleared me, but I was letting them know that I was in pain again, and I just wasn't feeling well. And they gave me this belly band, and I told them the belly band is not going to work. The belly band is not going to help ease the pain that I was having, just because it wasn't that kind of pain where it was like my stomach was giving me the pressure. So the belly band is supposed to lift your stomach up, so it's not giving all of that pressure. It was just like that cramping feeling again. And the OBGYN was not listening to me, and it cleared me to go back to work the next day, which was concerning for me because of the way that I was feeling. So I ended up going upstairs to labor and delivery. I'm pretty sure they talked to my OBGYN downstairs. And when I went upstairs to labor and delivery, they did like they used the clamp that they use for pap smears to check to see if like the stitch was still in place and like if I had any bacteria. And then they said that I did have some kind of bacteria there, which was concerning, being that I just had a surgery and having bacteria there is probably not the best thing. But it was something that they said can happen just because they literally open you up really far open when they do that. And they're putting things inside of you. So bacteria is not an uncommon thing to happen, but it can be concerning. So they were saying that I was having these pains because of the bacteria. And so I told the lady, what do I do about these pains? I have to go back to work tomorrow, and I don't want to be at work in pain, and I don't think it's the right time for me to go back to work. Like, I just feel like I shouldn't be going back to work. It's only been 2 weeks, and I feel this pain, and I don't feel right. I feel like I still need to be calm, and I still need to like rest and just like sit down and stuff like that. They wasn't listening to me, and they told me and there was nothing that they can do, which in the military it's a little bit different than the civilian world. If a military doctor writes out a letter for you to be, it's called SIQ, which is sick in quarters, then your command, your work cannot tell you you have to come into work, because a medical professional has said that you have to stay home for whatever reason. They don't need to give them a reason. So there is something they can do. It's not like civilian world where they give me a paper and maybe your job listens, fire you. I honestly don't know exactly how it works, so don't get on me about that. But they can, and I'm telling them I don't feel right. So she's like, oh, you're going to be in pain until probably for like the next 3 days until this bacteria goes away. Just take this medication until it goes away. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be sitting at work in pain. And I really don't think that's a good idea for me to be sitting at work in pain this whole entire time. And she's like, well, there's nothing we can do. I cannot call off of work when you're in the military. You just cannot. So I just sucked it up, and I went to work the very next day. And while I was at work, I have text messages. I'm telling my mom, like, I don't feel good at all. I'm telling my husband, like, I'm in pain. I am just sitting here just in pain, and I don't feel well at all. And on the paper they gave me, they said that I can only do desk jobs and I can only work 6 hours. So when that 6-hour mark came, I just told them I have to go. Like right now, I have to go. So I went home, and by the time, why my face looks like that? Alright, so hopefully I go back to where I was. So yeah, I was in pain. Told my husband. I had my restrictions, which I followed my restrictions. I tell them, like, I need to leave. It's time for me to leave anyways. I go home, and as I'm driving, I'm just like, please just let me get home. Like, let me at least get home. My husband had also did the night shift, so he hasn't taken a nap. So I was just like, okay, I need to get home, try to relax. So that's what I did. I went home. It was painful getting home, to be honest. And I tried my best to relax, but I was still having those pains, which now that I know those pains were actually me having contractions. And I let my husband sleep for a little bit. We ate dinner, and it was just progressively getting worse. And by the time I went to the hospital, it was just like, it was really bad. It was really painful. It was really like, I could not take it. It was Riley's bedtime. And Riley is not allowed in the hospital, but my husband is. And being that we are in Florida, but both of our families are all in New York City, and we have absolutely no one to watch her, my husband has not been allowed to be the hospital with me at all. So I've been alone literally this whole entire time, and it has been lonely. It's not too bad, but it has been lonely, and I also really miss Riley. But I'll talk about that then. So I get here, they start doing what they need to do, and in fact I am in labor pains. They check down there, and my stitch is actually like having a lot of tension. So they were like, let's start a medication called magnesium, which slows down contractions and stops the contractions from happening. Because at this point now I'm 24 weeks, 4 days, and the baby has a way better chance of survival, because I came to a civilian hospital this time, and I came to this one particularly. One, I couldn't make it all the way to the hospital because I had to drive myself, and two, I came to this one particularly because this hospital has a level 3 NICU, so it has like one of the top best high-risk doctors and NICUs for babies at this gestational age. So she has a higher chance of surviving at 24 weeks, but also a higher chance to be born with complications for the rest of her life. So yeah, so tension. So they were like, let's just give you magnesium, try to stop the cramping, give it to you for 24 hours, put me on a liquid diet only, and also give you steroids, so if the baby does come, then help develop the baby's lungs further, and those are just for precautions. So thank God she didn't come. I've been here for 3-4 days now. My husband was able to visit me really quick because his cousin drove down for the day, so he was able to stay with Riley in the car for a second while my husband comes upstairs to bring me some stuff, which was really nice to at least see someone that I know and am familiar. These nurses here are incredible, but to see my husband felt good. Obviously I would love to see and hold my baby, and I don't want to really talk about Riley because I am going to cry, and I'm trying not to cry, and I'm holding it in. But this morning, they had taken me off magnesium. I was able to eat all 3 meals yesterday, but this morning they had to put me back on magnesium, which is not the greatest news. After they took me off magnesium, which is the true test, was to see if I was having contractions again, and I was having contractions all day yesterday, and as well as they call something about called variables. So the monitor isn't picking up all of my contractions. They explained to me why, but I totally forgot why. But they can see that there's like dips in her heart rate each time I have contractions, and also the umbilical cord is kind of wrapped around her, not like her neck, but like her body is wrapped, like she's kind of wrapped around the umbilical cord. And as well as when they did a sonogram, there's like a little bit of fluid somewhere that's not supposed to be there. I can't really explain it unless I was to show you, but I didn't take any pictures or videos of it. But it's like my bladder was right here, my cervix was like right here, and then there's like some fluid right here, and her leg is like dangling. So they didn't know if it like kind of breached into the cervix. So when she did it, she said the cervix is still closed and the stitch is still there, But literally the only thing, that's her heart rate. It's in a good range though. It's at 155, 160. What was I saying? Oh, the cervix is the only thing that's holding it closed. It's the only thing that's holding it together. And that is not a good thing. And the little bit of fluid that's there doesn't look like when she went and checked herself, it doesn't look like as bad as it does in the ultrasound, but it's still something that she's still watching and still concerning. If it did look as bad, then they would have had to do an emergency C-section today with the baby. Well, this morning, but it doesn't look, it is not as bad as it looked inside the ultrasound. And then what else? Sorry, my phone started ringing. I got distracted. Oh, my cervix, the stitch that's closed my cervix, it is actually the only thing that's holding it, and my cervix is paper thin. So that is another thing that's concerning, because it can rupture, which is the last thing that they want to happen. And they don't want just all of that on my cervix is too much for them. It's too much tension on it. It's too much for my body, and it's too much, they don't want all of that. So it's just going step by step. I don't know how long I'm gonna be here for. We're kind of just taking everything day by day, just to see what's going on. So yeah, it's been hard, especially we have no family. We have no one. It's just the three of us out here. Like I was saying earlier, all of our family is in New York City, and we're in Florida, and it's kind of hard because, our family also works. My husband did start a job right before all of this happened, and because there's no one to watch Riley for us, because him and I would take turns watching her, he has to take off of work, which essentially he might get fired, and leaving it where I'm the only income. But we'll survive. You guys don't understand the kind of husband and the man I have. Is just, he is the most incredible human being ever. Super dad on steroids. He is not complaining, not one bit. He's just rocking it as a dad right now. He is taking care of it. He's hey, if I need to quit this job and take care of home, and then that's what I need to do to make sure that you can focus on the baby and make sure that the baby is good and the baby survives. He is obviously going through his own emotions, his own stuff, but he is just, I don't want him to keep it in and keep it bottled up, but it's his own ego and his own pride, and my husband's not going to entirely share with me everything. Oh, I think I'm having little contractions, but Jesus' name is going to stop. But yeah, he is rocking it. He is holding down the home front while I'm here, just trying to keep our little peanut in there for as long as we can. And if she is born early, magnesium is this is the last thing that they're going to try. If not, and they see things aren't progressing, or it has gotten a little bit worse and she keeps having those dips and those variables, then I will be having an emergency C-section, which would suck. She would have to be in the hospital for longer, and I wouldn't want that, but it's something that we probably have to do. So I'm just trying to keep her in there. Sorry, we keep getting cut off. So yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing better. Magnesium really makes you tired and drowsy. So sorry if I looked really just out of it. Just going day by day and trying to get baby in there. So just keep us in your prayers. Keep the baby in your prayers, and hopefully everything works out for her. I am 25 weeks today, so yeah, I'm just keeping a positive attitude, and just sticking with it. And I hope I get to carry her for even a couple more weeks, because each week drastically the percentage goes down for complications and survival rate, and of course the closest I can get to my due date, the better it would be. I really miss Riley. I miss her so much, but she is doing so well with her dad, and he's just taking great care of her. And I just hope to get all of this better, and I hope to get better, the baby to get better, so I can get home, because that means I'm better. And hopefully the military would finally listen to me when I get home and put me on a bed rest. If not, then I would have to be, I am going to take my personal time and put in my vacation days myself. I have quite a few days, quite a few weeks, honestly. I have a lot of days on the books, so I can do that, but I shouldn't have to use my own days for the health of my child. So yeah, keep us in your prayers and your thoughts, and I love you guys. Thank you so much for being our tribe and for being here for us. Peace.